traumatic brain injury and TBI in Iraq and Afghanistan veterans was called the signature wound in a paper I read in 2015. This can be difficult for the veterans who are living with these issues, and also for the clinicians caring for them, because the symptoms and the treatment for these can be very different, and there's not necessarily an algorithmic approach to resolving the symptoms that you guys are experiencing. In 2000, or excuse me, since 2000, the VA's kind of listed, over 400,000 veterans who have had TBI, the supermajority of which are MTBIs, or mild TBIs, which might be something as simple as a concussion. And this will come from everything from, being close to, some type of blast, IED, mortar, what have you. But also I see guys who tell me they fell off the back of an LMTV and slipped and hit their head. So the mechanism of injury can vary wildly, but the trauma to the brain itself is still present. And when you pair that with the symptoms from PTSD, it can create a nasty cycle for symptoms that aggravate each other and just make your life a lot more unpleasant, and can make kind of sleep and irritability and all these things much more harder to kind of control. With PTSD, it's not just simply an issue of bad memories or you had this bad experience. Your nervous system is kind of trapped in this vigilant state well after the danger, the event has transpired, and everyone has kind of a different resilience level on what could be traumatizing to them. What might bother me might not bother you at all, and vice versa. But a lot of the symptoms, I'm sure you guys have heard this a number of times, are, you're constantly scanning, hypervigilance, alertness. You can never quite fully relax. You don't necessarily want to be in crowds with people. And the problem is that your brain can't really dial that back and kind of turn that off. And this can also present with nightmares and just restlessness. And I know the VA had previously talked about maybe about 20-ish%, the number kind of ranges, but maybe about 20% of OIF veterans who deployed being diagnosed or having symptoms of PTSD. And I think out of that number, about 7% of that or so has TBI as well, which is a pretty substantial part. TBI itself, even mild TBI, can be difficult because you look fine. You can function or you physically can function well. But this creates its own set of problems with the concussion, memory issues, headaches, brain fog. Maybe you can't read as fast. Again, this is also worsening your sleep. You have mood issues. It can be hard to concentrate. And many folks will have not just maybe one encounter, especially if you guys have been deployed over and over again. Most of us have more than one deployment under our belt. And then certainly if you were on something like jump status or something like this, and you have a bad PLF, like these injuries can kind of keep compounding, and it doesn't get better with time. And the challenge clinically is that the symptoms, as we kind of describe, are very similar. You got irritability is present in both, sleep problems are present in both situations, anxiety, concentration, and it may not just be psychological. Because of the TBI effects, you could have neurological changes within your brain from the trauma that it experienced. And trying to kind of parse these out and how you treat each one is difficult. And the not sleeping can make, your migraine symptoms worse, which make your irritability worse. And at the end of the day, do you really care if it's the TBI or PTSD that's kind of driving it, or you just need to get better? You need to feel better so that you can get on with your life and take care of your family and do what you need to do. These symptoms can be very isolating, and that in and of itself just kind of feeds its own sense of anger, and it's just kind of a pretty unpleasant place to be. And you might sit here and kind of suffer with this stuff um, for some period of time before you get help, or the help you've gotten hasn't really been adequate. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the treatments, and I want to kind of delve into this later here in some more detail and perhaps another video, but the treatments that we're seeing the efficacy of these over the last studies that have come out over the last years for just, pharmaceutical management alone is not particularly great. It really recommends a very holistic approach to addressing these symptoms, and including things like CBT therapy, DBT therapy, service animals, on top of pharmacotherapy. And I remember, some folks are never going to be in a position where they may not ever want to talk or go see a therapist or something, and that's okay. And your doctor needs to meet you where you are, and help you with what you want to do and what you're comfortable with. I remember coming out of a deployment, we were doing some or redeployment stuff, and they had all the chairs were like circled up in some big meeting, and everyone was immediately freaked out by that. Like, we were not all sitting in a circle talking about our feelings. So I get that, and you might not be there now, or maybe you weren't and now you are. And I just want to encourage you to kind of stay open to different treatment options, and to try some of these things if one thing's not working, to kind of be open to perhaps other things that might help you, or with the other treatments you're getting, to maybe add something else to get a more holistic approach, and hopefully your healthcare team is meeting you with that and supporting you through that. Again, the challenge, not just treating the PTSD, but the TBI as well, can have a totally different set of needs and treatment needs. So working with the TBI and the memory problems and the slow processing and stuff like this might need to bring in not just like psychotherapy, but you might need speech therapy to work on neuro rehab, work on your processing and kind of the neuroplasticity. And you probably see some of the stuff on TV, or play these games to get your brain to start to rework through some of these connections, and work on some of the headache issues. And that's a whole journey. And depending on how bad your symptoms are, this is not necessarily going to be a quick fix. It could take years, or it might be the rest of your life that you're kind of dealing with these symptoms. But I want to just kind of encourage you that you're not alone. There are tens of thousands of veterans who are going through this. And there is hope, and it's not going to last forever. And trying to work a program can be hard, especially with family and transportation and all these other things that you have going on. But I want to encourage you to keep pressing forward with that, and to keep exploring these opportunities. And hopefully your doctor and your team can kind of work with you through some of this stuff. It's not something you have to go through alone, and I want to encourage you to get connected and talk to others, and see what services are available to you. Hopefully you found this helpful, and I look forward to connecting with you again here in the future. Be well.